Hey everybody, late August sessions, episode number 6. I can't believe we've made it this far. Really, in all honesty. No, in all seriousness, this is one I lost sleep over last night. I went to bed at midnight and didn't fall asleep until well after 2 o'clock in the morning because I was extremely nervous about somebody who I probably shouldn't have been as nervous about. Somebody that's become a friend that was a hero long before, and I can't believe he's sitting here doing this show with me. And I just want to say a big thank you for being here to Mark Miller of Sawyer Brown.
Man, it's my honor, pal. And we are good friends. When you write songs together, you become friends.
And that's really, this is this show. This is a songwriter show about the art of songwriting. There's a lot of things people could learn about you, online, and we'll go over some stuff like that. But really, I want to get down into some of the nuts and bolts, and you just shared a cool story when we were off air, and I might bring that up too about some girls do. But originally from Dayton, Ohio, grew up in Florida, and according to what I saw online, which you can see this too, it was basketball, the beach, and then work in that order.
Yeah.
Okay, because we know you were a good basketball player. Played for UCF. What I did not know until I started this was that you were a trick water skier for Disney World.
Yeah. From all through high school and college.
That's awesome.
I was Pinocchio in the water ski show.
And you had to wear a helmet
Yeah.
underneath your big Pinocchio thing.
Yeah, it was like a motorcycle helmet, and then the Pinocchio head, and then the costume. And we had to do shows for the Polynesian Hotel, the Contemporary, the ferry boats, Bay Lake, everything leading over to the Magic Kingdom. And we would do, the boat would go by and they would see the characters skiing, and we'd be doing tricks and all kinds of stuff.
I don't know that I've ever met somebody that was actually a trick water skier. It's cool. But you did it all with your high school and college. And then college is really when you started your journey into songwriting.
Yeah. I was a junior, and a buddy of mine, Scott Peterson, had given me a poem to put music to, because I had taught myself how to play guitar. And you'll hear a little bit later, it's not great guitar playing, but it helps me navigate through a song. And I put this together, and I wrote the song, and it was probably one of the easiest things I'd ever done. It all just unfolded in front of me and made sense. So then I got the idea, well, maybe I could write the lyrics too. So I write a couple songs, and the music and the lyrics. And then at Disney, I knew a guy he was the main band leader in the Magic Kingdom. And I played him these songs, and he didn't believe that I'd written them. And he didn't believe that was me singing them. So he actually kind of got a little upset. And he says, well, let me hear some of your earlier songs. And I said, well, these are the first two songs
These are
I wrote.
Yeah.
And he actually kind of got upset. And he goes, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can't do what you just did in 1 week. And he really encouraged me to do something about it and get serious about it.
Yeah. When you hear something like that after really your kind of your first work, and hearing somebody go, I can't do this, and I couldn't do in 20 years what you've done in a week. I mean, light bulb moment. Okay, I've got it. You didn't know you had it, or
not really. And even at that point, I was so focused. My dream was to play basketball. If I couldn't make the NBA, I was going to go to Europe, play, come back, and be a coach. My major was physical education. So even at that point, I didn't have an inkling about, this is what I could do. So that was February. I wrote 10 more songs, and my brother just was after me to go to Nashville. So on spring break, I borrowed a buddy's van, me and Hobie, our keyboard player.
I love Hobie. What a good soul.
Yeah. And we've known each other since the 8th grade. We came to Nashville and just started knocking on doors. And we actually got in to see people we shouldn't have gotten in to see. Tony Brown, was one of those guys. And but this was the moment when I got to Nashville. Everybody took me serious as a songwriter and even more as a singer. And that's when the light kind of went on, maybe, because they said, you got to be here. You can't do this in Apopka, Florida. You got to move to Nashville and you got to be here. So that was kind of the moment for me. It's like, okay, maybe I could do this.
So, okay. And that's one of the questions I often ask. So was Savannah really the name of the first band that, you know, that you and Hobie had done?
We weren't even a band yet. No. We were just, I was an introvert and still am. I wouldn't even read out loud in class. So we did a couple shows for our friends just so I could get up in front of people and sing, because I really had, and still struggle a bit going on stage. So when I first moved to Nashville, I get a job as a staff writer and I started singing jingles. And that was great because I didn't have to perform in front of anybody and I could just sit in a cubicle and write. So it was a gradual thing because the other guys were in a band. There was Don King was not the fight promoter, but he was an artist on CBS Records. And he hired me as a staff writer and I was their roadie. So all the guys in Sawyer Brown were in his band, including Hobie. I got Hobie a job. So I was their roadie. I would go set their stuff up. But the guys would play on the demos that I would write. So he lost his record deal and they talked me into kind of stepping into that lead singer part. Well, I didn't really know if I could do it just because of the nerves. So they're playing, they're playing this club on Murfreesboro Road. And it's, you know, it was in that probably 1982.
Yeah.
And so they just wanted me to come down and listen to the band. So they're doing all covers and I'm sitting back and there ain't nobody paying any attention to the band. So on every break, they say, just get up and sing one with us. So finally I decided, okay, no one's listening. I can get up and sing and no one will really pay attention. Mm-hmm. And at least I could be on stage and practice. So we decided that we're going to do Lion Eyes by the Eagles. So we get up and I sing the first line and the whole place stops and turns around and looks at the stage. So now I'm freaking out.
In a good way or a bad way? Or
in
both?
A bad way.
Yeah, okay.
In a bad way,
yeah.
because two things I'm thinking at the same time is, oh my gosh, they're all listening to me. And I picked the longest song in the history. Lion Eyes is like 7 minutes long.
A lot going on there. Yeah.
And that's all I'm thinking.
And now I'm stuck up here.
Yeah. And but that was it was a God thing because I needed that. And as soon as I finished, everybody was applauding. I just ran off stage. I couldn't get off of there fast enough.
That's so funny because you've become like, I would tell any guy that wants to front a band, like, go watch Mark. Okay? Like, genre specific is what, I don't care what genre you're talking. Go watch Mark and Sawyer Brown. Even as a younger kid, watching y'all's music videos and listening to y'all's songs and watching your spin moves and Tennessee Jet has a funny story about him getting in trouble for doing one of your spin moves in the high school gymnasium. We'll touch more on TJ later, but you didn't even know until you were that old, and then all of a sudden you were doing it, and then it's like, oh man, I might be good at this. And then 40 years later, one of the best frontmen to ever grace the stage. To hear you say that, it's like you would have thought, no, I grew up doing this. I knew exactly what I was going to do. This was all very well calculated.
Yeah. No. And you grow up as an athlete, and you know this. You want to be the best. So I'm like, because I prayed, God, let me do something else. I just can't do this. I mean, I prayed, give me something else.
Wow.
Let me just be a songwriter. But these doors kept opening. So at that point, it's like, okay, lock and load.
Yeah.
If I have to do this, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to study Mick Jagger. I'm going to study Elvis. I'm going to study Little Richard. I'm going to study Chuck Berry.
I'm going to study Mark Miller.
I'm going to see and I grew up in a Pentecostal church. So we rocked.
Yeah, you did.
And we felt our music. So all that was natural. And even the performing was natural because I always felt the music. Like when I hear like a funky song, man, it goes all the way to my bones, and I'll start moving. And I have since I was a kid. So all that was natural. It was just being able to do it, to get up and do it.
This kind of leads to the question of where you're from. You're originally from Dayton, Ohio. You grew up in Florida, and one of my favorite questions is how is where you're from? How has that shaped your sound? And you just answered that. Growing up in church, I learned to sing in church as well, and I've also prayed that I hope should this not be what I'm doing, because I'm kind of looking for a way out. Those doors kind of keep opening. Being from that part of the country, growing up with the Pentecostal background, how you move around a lot on stage. Is this where that came from?
Yeah. Because, in our church, we had horns, we had drums, anything that you could play, you brought it to church and we played. And there was a whole lot of backbeat going on, It wasn't on the front beat, it was on the back. Yeah. And so, yeah. So, there was that, and you learn that becomes natural. If you grow up and you hear that becomes natural. So the movement was all very natural.
You cited actually some of my favorites when trying to study up on you and be as prepared as I can be for situations such as these. Billy Joel, Elton John, James Taylor, and your all-time favorite is the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
I grew up in a house that was dominated by Elton John. My mother always had Elton John on, and the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
The James Taylor came along later in life for me, but as far as Elton goes, I've flown home from a tour, picked my wife up, flown to Vegas to see an Elton show. My wife had to fly home without me, and I flew back out to tour. So and Billy Joel is another huge one for me. And I was like, man, he just listed like a lot of my favorites growing up as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the Yellow Brick Road came out, it had to be 75 or 76. And I was in high school, and that was like, I'd never heard anything like that. Never heard songs written like that. Songs that painted pictures, told stories in rock and roll. So Billy Joel the same way. But I loved the Beach Boys. I mean, if you tell me you're going to be on a deserted island, I'm picking Endless Summer. Give me that record, and that's all I need. And we actually got to do a project with them, and we toured with them. So so with us being a country rock band, one summer we opened for them, and
that's really cool.
It was incredible because Brian was out, Carl was still alive, Mike, Bruce.
What year was this?
So it's been 87.
Yeah.
And then they did a project, and they asked us to be a part of the project, and I got to sing I Get Around, and they did all the backup vocals, and it was so much fun.
How cool was that?
And then
did they have to lower the song for you?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah. They did. And of course.
Oh yeah. That's like, what? Yeah.
And we got to open one of the award shows with that. I called every one of my high school and college buddies and said, you got to check this out. I have finally made it, man. And it was us and the Beach Boys opening the award show.
That's the coolest.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing it because I grew up with the Beach Boys, and to have an opportunity, I guess,
Now
to
they were California. They were quirky, man.
yeah,
You know, because they it was a whole different vibe, but it was so cool. And also, you wanted that.
absolutely.
You wanted that because they were rock stars.
Hmm.
So you
Huge.
wanted, yeah. So you wanted them to be rock stars,
Yeah.
and they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't think of a Christmas that we've had the LPs out and not had Beach Boys Christmas. It's probably one of the. I mean, just their other work is all wonderful, but
Run, run, reindeer, baby.
you have to have the Beach
That's right.
Boys
Yeah.
for Christmas. Staying on the songwriting thing, I wanted to ask you about a song in particular, and maybe if you'll play it a little bit later. But one of my favorite questions to ask, and actually it really came from Liz, who happens to be a huge Elton John connoisseur herself. Speaking specifically about the song called "The Walk," which is my favorite song by Sawyer Brown, and you wrote that. Are there songs that you can you be too vulnerable on a song? Can you do you have to protect yourself or protect
That was
other
the
people?
first. That was the first time because, like, I wrote "Step That Step," which was our first #1 record, and I was like 23. And then I would write songs like that were fun, that I knew. Um, but "The Walk" was the first time that I wrote that about my grandfather. I was losing my grandfather at the time, and he was my guy. I didn't have a dad. My dad died in the Korean War. So I was 15 months old, and my brother was 4 months old. We're 11 months apart. So my mom was a single mom, 22 years old with the both of us. So my grandfather really became my father figure, and I was losing him at the time, and I wrote "The Walk" about that, and that's the first time that I had really, I think, wrote from my heart than from my head. In fact, it was on the Buick album, and I wouldn't let him release it as a single because at the time, radio was still trying to figure us out. And, we had a couple big records, and then we had a couple big, not big records. And so I didn't want that song to be judged by radio because I knew I'd be upset. I could have a temper at times, when things get personal. And over the years, because of our antics and our show, we had been, the media and radio had taken pot shots at us. And that's fine. I knew what we were. But when "The Walk" came along, I'm not going to let them judge my song. So I had just written "The Dirt Road" and "Some Girls Do," and we just had lost Bobby, our guitar player. So I called Mac McAnally, and Mac was in Muscle Shoals, and he was a buddy of mine. And I said, "Hey, listen, I got to get out of town. Nobody knows we lost Bobby. I got a couple songs, and find me a guitar player." So we go to Shoals. Mac comes over, and he brings in Duncan Cameron. Duncan came in. He was the one who came up with the lick on "Some Girls Do." And we knew Dunk was he was a beast. So Dunk ends up joining the band, and we get back to Nashville, and I'm so excited about "The Dirt Road" and "Some Girls Do." And I play it for TK Kimbrell, who was my manager, and my brother were also managing us at the time. And they loved it. They said, "But we want to sit you down and talk about "The Walk." I said, "Well, that's over. It's on the Buick album." They said, "No, we want to bring it off the Buick album and put it on the Dirt Road album." So that's what we did. And they said, "We want to lead with it." And my brother called me in, and he was our accountant at the time. And we did things differently back then, not unlike the way you do things. And he said, "I will break the bank for this song." He said, "We believe in this song so much, we will spend every penny that we have to make sure that this thing has a shot."
Yeah.
And that's what they did. and it literally changed the way that one song changed the trajectory of our career.
Because you guys, and we were speaking briefly off camera. You guys, when you're sitting down just with an acoustic guitar and you're writing a song, it sounds very country. Whenever Sawyer Brown's up on stage, you guys rocking, man.
Yeah.
And it's much the same for what we do. You know, if I'm sitting there playing an acoustic show, it probably sounds very country, and then we put on a rock and roll show.
Yeah.
Really, whenever it comes out. So having that type of song and having written the songs that you'd written before, I can see how that would have been a little bit of a departure, like from outside looking in, from the optics of like, this is not, and it's such an iconic song.
Yeah.
For a young songwriter, what advice would you give them in terms of that type of scenario? Do you save a little bit for yourself, or do you throw it all out there?
Man, I'll say this. The best thing that ever happened to me was signing as a staff writer and having a great publisher. When I first moved to town, I was a songwriter, but I didn't know anything about writing songs. And as a staff writer, Blake Mevis was our publisher. And, Blake produced George Strait, Dean Dillon, and all these guys back in the 80s. And man, Blake would wear me out. I mean, it was always the idea of you don't have a throwaway line ever in the song. You sit there and go through the song, and you tell the story, and then you paint the picture.
Mm. Or
you build a house, and the house has got great bones, and then you furnish the house, and then you paint it. And then that was the whole thing. It was like, you're going to craft a song. Even if it's not a great idea, you better write me a good song. And if you have a great idea and write a good song, then we have a hit song. So that was how it was drilled into me.
Yeah.
So, I'll hear hit songs today, and I can pick them apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, well, they should have done this or that. Mm-hmm. And that's just because of the way I was taught.
Yeah.
To craft a song.
I think crafting is something, and we could get into a now versus then thing. I think maybe crafting a song is the way to go about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of things today are crafted necessarily that we hear, but that's definitely the school you came from.
Yeah.
It's important. You're saying dissecting, picking it apart, no wasted words.
No wasted.
I try to pick up things like that from other songwriters that I speak to. No wasted words. Less is more. I love writing with people like Tennessee Jet. TJ will write pages and just and then like I'll go through and I'll be like, ooh, this one, this one, and kind of do that. And whereas some the co-writing thing, some people will try to it's like, oh, what about this, and I'm like, yank it out, pull it out, pull it out. Less. How do we say more with less? That type of deal.
The best example Blake gave me is, now check this out. This is pretty cool. You remember the song, Kenny Rogers' song, Lucille, Pick the Fine. Okay, the opening line, across from the depot in a bar in Toledo, on a bar stool, she took off her ring. Now break that down. Just that one line tells you exactly what's going on.
You already know.
You already know.
Yeah.
You've set it up. You've set the hook. And we're both bass fishermen. You've set the hook. Yeah. In a bar in Toledo, across from the depot, on a bar stool, she took off her ring. Now dissect that for a while. Let that marinate. And you go, oh boy, I got some work to do as a songwriter.
Yeah.
To pack that much into that line.
And because once you have a line like that, the rest of the song is, I'm going to try not to mess this up.
Right.
I mean, how many times have you sat down to write a song and been like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Crap. Then you put your pen down and you're like, I'm going to mess it up from here on.
Well, you know this, and I think every songwriter knows this. The hardest thing to write in a song is the second verse
Mm.
because I've already said everything.
Sometimes you don't have to.
Yeah.
Look at Merle Haggard. Sometimes it's first verse, a couple choruses, maybe a bridge. Might go back to the first verse, chorus out. Let's go.
Yeah. The second verse is the hardest because I was schooled to make sure there were no, throwaway lines. I'd already said everything in the first verse in the chorus.
Yeah.
And then I'm going, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah. Do you have a method?
The only method I have is, after for years of being a staff writer, I know how to craft a song.
Yeah.
I will only sit down and write if I have a great idea. I'm not going to sit down and write and try to just come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write ideas down and kind of have a go-to whenever I do decide to write. The thing that we wrote Under This Old Hat, I'd had that idea for a long time about us touring. And we toured 40 years and it was all, seen from under this old hat. Mm-hmm. The whole thing took place under here.
Yeah.
And that was, I had that idea. And I think me, you and CJ, I really think we just killed it.
Yeah. That was one that I felt very honored to have my name on because I think I had maybe 2 words in that song or whatever.
But you know this, it doesn't matter because we're going to write another song that I have 2 words and you have.
It all balances out.
It all balances out.
Yeah. It does.
That's why those kind of things, I've seen guys come in when I'm producing a record.
And they actually do pay scale burst on
per word.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, what is this?
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, these are the ones that I wrote. And so I get, 32.5.3% in this. And I'm like going, are you guys serious? Are you serious with me?
Yeah.
It's just like when you sit down to write, it's like, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Like, it's all for the sake of the song.
Yeah.
And yeah. In terms of obviously you started writing, and you were writing by yourself, as far as the co-writing goes, most people I talk to, obviously they start writing by themselves. They end up co-writing. How it happened with you was really kind of out of the blue. And it was such a pleasant surprise because I'm really one of those guys. Normally it takes a long time for me to feel comfortable enough. And I think that has more to do with just me and how I'm geared. Yeah. It happened very naturally. And when it does, it's in the first few times that it did happen naturally. And I didn't feel like I was stuck, trying to squeeze oil out of a rock, with somebody like we're banging our heads down. Cause I'm not like you said, I'm not one of those guys that sits down to write every day. I'm not the guy that's in everything like, oh, there's a song in there. We ought to write it. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Yeah. Like there's songs everywhere, but I have to have something to sit down and focus on. And I've found through co-writing years and years of doing this, it's a lot easier because I have people in my mind that I'll have an idea and it's like, I get stuck and I'll try to finish it myself, but it's like, well, I need to send this to, so-and-so. Yeah. Do you do the same thing or?
I'm the closer. I'm the finisher.
Okay.
Hobie will start stuff, bring it to me and I'll look at it almost the same way I told you the very first song I wrote. My buddy brings in a poem and I had to move some things around. So, but if I start writing a song, I have to finish it no matter what. And then I'll go back and tweak it. But co-writing has been difficult because I get intimidated, and Mac McAnally, who is one of the greatest writers, has always made me feel comfortable. And Mac's one of those guys that you end up sitting there just going, oh yeah, that's a good line. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good.
Well, y'all wrote Thank God for You and the Boys and Me together, right? Okay.
Yeah. And Mac's just written some mega songs. Yeah. But he wrote all these years. And but the great thing about us is we would get an idea and then we would go eat. And then we may go play basketball or go golf. Mm-hmm. And then it was that first meeting, then we would just start sending each other lines. So you're not sitting there in a room like battling it out,
Yeah.
because that sometimes, and most of the time, doesn't work. You get kind of seized up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the guy to sit there and just go to war over it.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, let's take what we got, let it marinate, and see what else comes out of it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, because if you and I were to sit down right now and it's like, oh, we got that first verse and we got that second verse and we were both worried about screwing it up, I'd be like, yeah, let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
Because like it's going to work itself out.
Yeah.
It's like my process is really weird. I'll try to explain it to people and it sometimes doesn't make sense, but I'll start with a word or an idea or a line and it kind of spins around like a tornado and it just picks up other words and lines. Yeah. So once I do sit down to write, I have a starting place or at least a middle place to go. And I don't have so much of some people are structured and disciplined enough to get up every day and grab their guitar and grab their notebook. Yeah. I'm not that.
Not me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah. I'm very undisciplined. What's your favorite one that you've penned yourself? What's your favorite co-write?
Favorite one would be The Walk, or Some Girls Do. Mm-hmm. And Some Girls Do, I'll say this, and not saying it in an arrogant way, but Some Girls Do is the only song of all the hit songs I've written that I knew was a hit. I knew it was a hit. So I went to Muscle Shoals and cut it, and it was too rock, and I knew it, and it was my favorite, but I knew I couldn't get it. This would have been 1990, so I knew it was too progressive, but I had to give it a chance to be a hit song. So I've come back to Nashville. I cut it here with the country guys. Down there I did it with Roger Hawkins and David Hood and the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. So I come back here, cut it. It was too country, and it was just too country for me. Mm-hmm. Then the last version, I fly in J.D. Manis from California, steel guitar player. He played steel on all those Buck Owens and Cool.
That California stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I brought up Roger and David from Muscle Shoals, and then brought in Randy Scruggs and some of the guys in Nashville. And I played them both.
Yeah.
I said, this song lives somewhere in between Muscle Shoals and Nashville.
Yeah.
In California. And the record you hear is what we came up with.
So you had your producer ears on for that song specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize about you is that you're an accomplished producer, and there's
produced all our records.
Yeah. And not to mention Casting Crowns. And
yeah.
I mean, which is just an incredible thing in and of itself. As far as sticking with the writing thing, who is somebody you would have wished you could have written with or would like to write with in the future?
Well, I never have sat down to do it, and I'm really good friends with him. Dean Dillon is one of my favorite all-time writers, and also one of my favorite human beings. We're really good friends. But I would be so intimidated to sit down with Dean, because, so he was the first guy when I came to town. First day, I signed a production deal with Linda Hargrove. She was a writer, and her and Dean wrote together. And she said, hey, you got to go see this guy, Dean Dillon, at the Exit Inn. So this was 1980. And me and Hobie go down, and Dean gets up and he comes out, and he's got that hat on, and he's got hair down to here, and he's just cool. I mean, dude, he reeks of cool. And he sits down and he plays Unwound that he wrote for George. And I'm sitting there going, and I looked at Hobie, I said, we just need to go back home.
It was Dean Dillon in 1980, so I mean, he was really popping at that time.
But I will tell you this, a little trivia. He and Linda had just written a song, and they asked me to sing the demo for it. And I did. And that song was Tennessee Whiskey in 1980.
You sang a demo of Tennessee Whiskey?
Yeah. And they pitched it to George Jones.
Yeah. So George heard your version of it?
Yeah.
Did y'all ever talk about that later?
No.
No?
No, never did.
That's incredible.
I'd actually had forgotten about it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you hear Chris Stapleton sing it, it's like a whole nother thing, man.
I think Stapleton's, I mean, that's a different story, man. That guy's,
Oh, he's a beast. Dude, he is a beast.
yeah, he is.
I hear him and go, what are the rest of us even doing?
The mere mortals down here. Yeah. Trying to,
Exactly.
if I could crank my voice
Yeah.
up like that.
And the dude, I don't know him, but he seems so humble.
Yeah.
And it's effortless. When you see him, you're like going, that's the way it should be done.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know him either. I've got mutual friends that I write with that say the same. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
As far as writers we have out there now, you know, who's somebody like that, you know, has raised your antennas in the last 5 to 10 years as just being one of the better writers nowadays.
Man, I mean, Luke Combs, man. When I hear some of that stuff, and I understand, even he and Morgan, I understand why it's huge.
Mhm.
I get it, you know. But the band Midland,
Mhm.
I just like their sound.
Cool style.
It's just a cool sound. Like when I hear their records, and I go, you know what? You know, I like these guys.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know what it is about it. Just for me, I love that band.
Yeah. It just
Yeah.
clicks with,
Yeah.
The music business has obviously changed a lot since you started. I mean, from the writing, the publishing, you know, it's even harder for writers to get paid now than it used to
Yeah.
be. You know, just I guess over the last 40 years of navigating this business, because I know the last record you guys put out, it's been 20 years, right? Since,
Yeah.
you know, when's the next one coming out? Are you?
Yeah, it's all changed. I still think that you know this as well as I do, that even then and even now, when you make a song or make a record, you never think about how much money it's going to make.
No.
You just think about making the record. And I always look at, well, whatever happens, it's going to happen. You know, in the 90s, I was going to the mailbox and like, you know, freaking out, walking back to the house.
Yeah.
Going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, some of that's not here. But also I look at, you know, the thing that you do and the things that we do that we can control
Mhm.
is perform all these songs live. And we get compensated for that.
Yeah.
Just us.
Yeah.
Nobody else. This is us bringing this to the people, to the fans of the songs that we sat at our kitchen table and wrote.
Yeah.
That still freaks me out.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'll go to Seattle and you know, people are singing Step That Step. I'll go to, you know, Boston or Vancouver and they're singing Step That Step.
Mhm.
And it's still, I get the biggest kick out of, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote that song.
Yeah. And a good song's a good song, and you can't. There's no expiration date on it. And you brought up Luke Combs, and I'm not one of the mainstream guys. You know, I never have been, and a lot by choice. You know that I turned down a couple of label deals whenever I was younger,
Mhm.
and that may have been to my detriment. I don't know. But Luke is one of the ones that I believe in when he sings. The guy is as sweet and kind as the day is long.
You said something that when people ask me, that's how I judge. I either believe him or I don't, you know. And you're right. He's one of those guys that you believe him when he sings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every word that comes out of his mouth. You know, when he did Fast Car, I'm like going, dude, I mean, to take an iconic song, you know, and do what he did with it and make it so believable, it's you know, man, that's incredible.
Well, in case in point, on just a great song, you know, Tracy Chapman, that song came out in like 89 or something. And then you got this, you know, one of the biggest country stars in the world. Like, who would have thought he could have taken that song and done with it what he did?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and not destroy it.
Oh,
you know,
it was wonderful.
Because it wasn't a country song.
No.
It was a great song.
Yeah.
He made a great record.
Yeah. he was selling stadiums out, you know, and
Right.
to hear an entire stadium, you know, erupt whenever, you know,
Yeah.
all of his songs, but especially with Fast Car. All right, this is a very serious question. And I know you've answered this a million freaking times.
I'll try to lie
how
this
many
time.
how many people have called you Sawyer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all. And in fact, the guys will on the bus call me Sawyer.
Do they really?
To be funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know, because I hated to even ask you that question. I'm sorry I even asked that question, because that's in all of his interviews as well. You can go. That's been well documented. But here's a question for you. I mean, a serious one. After all these years of doing it, after all the songs you've written, all the co-writes you've had, the almost 6,000 shows that Sawyer Brown has played, it's a two-part question. How do you measure your success, and why do you keep doing it?
Let me answer the why first. And how I was raised. You know, I grew up in a trailer park, and all my family were either farmers, preachers, or teachers. And I knew how hard they worked. And I can go out in one night and make more money than they made all year. Well, as a man growing up the way I grew up, I don't have to work as hard as they did all year to go make this money. So, and it's something I enjoy. Now, I will say this, because this wasn't my dream. My dream was to play basketball. I take it serious as a job. This is my job. This is what I do. And I want to be good at it. And I want to keep getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I keep doing it, is because of the work ethic. That's what I'm supposed to do as a man, to provide for my family.
You know, I'm glad you said what you just said. You know, you're a collegiate athlete, you know, and sports, that's an area where you have a finite amount of time, and your body starts to, you know, we get older.
Yeah.
And music and something like songwriting is some of, like, maybe look at Guy Clark or Johnny Cash or people like that, who some of their best stuff was when they were older.
Yeah.
You know, out of what they would be considered in their prime. Who can dictate what a prime is or whatever? You know, it's you never stop getting better at it. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, people would be surprised at Bill Anderson. Bill Anderson has probably written in the last 15 years, after his, you know, artist career was over. It's probably, if you went and looked at seeing the chart songs that this guy's had, and, you know, I'm sure he's in his 70s or 80s. I mean, it's just, that's what's remarkable about what we do.
Yeah.
The shelf life is whatever we make it.
The shelf life is whatever we make it. There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna end on that. That was the coolest thing I've heard all day. I do have a request, if you would indulge me, while we set up to play some songs. If you'd be so kind as to play the walk.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and get set up for the guitar portion of this. I have picked the brain today of Mark Miller from Sawyer Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
And I try to ask questions that I'm interested in, you know, and I'm trying to learn from you guys. And I just want to thank you as a fan, for being one of the bands that, whenever I was a kid, when y'all came out on country radio, my dad goes, "I don't know about these guys. There's a little bit too much rock and roll for me." So thank you for letting it be okay to have some, and actually making it a thing to have some rock and roll in your country, because we totally have a lot of rock and roll in our country.
And you know what? The thing is, I never took that personal, you know, because I had my family members that were traditional, you know, and they loved me.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't necessarily like the songs.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. And I was okay with people as long as they liked me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't want them to judge me about my songs. I wanted them to judge me, you know, as a Christian man.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, that's who I am. You know, what the niche that we came up with with our little thing, you know, I'm real proud of that, and will always be proud of that. So, but I never took it personal, because I knew what we were.
Yeah.
And we were you know, you had to have a certain taste. But I watched wrestling growing up, and I love wrestling, still do to this day.
Me too.
And you either had a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I either wanted you to hate Sawyer Brown or love Sawyer Brown. I did not want there to be anything in between.
I love Sawyer Brown. I've always loved Sawyer Brown. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and be a part of this. We still don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're doing it the best we can. And thank you for your songs. Thank you for your friendship. And let's grab some guitars and play a couple songs. Y'all, this has been Late August Sessions, episode number 6. Mark Miller from Sawyer Brown. Thank you so much.
Thank you, pal.
All right. We'll see you on a second.